Hello everyone, my name is Xian and my teammate is Choppala. Our project is about emphysema detection with X-ray images using convolutional neural network. So what is emphysema? Emphysema is one of the two main forms of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, with chronic bronchitis being the second. This disease happens when the alveoli in the lungs are damaged, which causes the air sac to lose their shape, and it results in shortness of breath, chronic cough, and excess mucus production. Study shows that there are several factors leading to this diagnosis, but the most common reason is due to tobacco smoke. This condition makes it harder for the lungs to transfer in oxygen and release out carbon dioxide at a normal pace. And around 5% of the people worldwide have died in 2015, while the cases keep increasing over time. Our ambition for this project is to use transfer learning by modifying an existing well-working CNN model for lung cancer detection to fit our dataset and solve a similar problem that deals with lungs and image classification. And right now, there are two related models that we use from GitHub. As we can see from the image to the left and right, and this model is very complex with around 50 layers, with accuracy of approximately 55%. Well, the second model we used was the lung cancer detection model that performed extremely well in identifying images of lungs with cancer cells. This model was used as a transfer learning model to study if a network that was exceptional in detecting one type of problem in a lung scan can detect others as well with little to no modification. The dataset we used for this problem is called NIH Chest X-ray from Kaggle. This set has over 100,000 images of lung X-ray scans from over 30,000 different patients. Additionally, this dataset has 15 different classes, with 14 being different lung illnesses and the 15th class being healthy lungs. This set also includes a CSV file that contains all the image information from file name and respective labels to the gender and age of the patient. And the structure of this dataset is shown as the image to the left. The images are separated into two different folders containing a different number of images in the first and the last folder. The 14 lung illness classes for this dataset are shown on the image to the right. However, we are only interested in the class label emphysema. This slide shows two samples of lung X-ray scans from the dataset. The left image shows a lung scan that has been diagnosed with emphysema, while the right image shows a lung scan of a pair of healthy lungs. From these two images, we can see how hard it is visually for a human without a prior medical background to tell the difference or spot the key feature for classification. The approach we took in the project are as shown in stages. First, we had to pre-process the data and then load the data in the transfer learning model. After building and compiling the network, we had to run the model. The image on the left displays the conversion of the scan into an image array, which was one of the many steps to pre-processing and loading the data. We had several steps in pre-processing the data. The first stage is as shown, with us creating a master folder with all images, as opposed to the downloaded dataset with images in 12 different folders. Next, we had written a Python script to rewrite the downloaded master CSV file so that each image has only one label attached to it. Next, we had to parse through the data to find the samples we needed. So we made another script to go through the data and create two new CSV files. The first file contained image names that had only the emphysema label attached to it, while the second file consisted of image names with only no finding label. Finally, we created another script to actually parse through the folders of images and compare the folder of images to the two CSV files we created earlier. After this comparison, we deleted all the images of scans that we didn't need. So at the end, we had only two folders. The first one containing the set of images that was diagnosed with emphysema, while the second one contained only the set of images of healthy lungs. After sorting through the data, we had run into a problem. The emphysema image folder had around 2,500 images, and the healthy lung folder had over 60,000 images. Comparing these numbers, if we had used this set when training, the model will always guess that the image is of a healthy lung, and the accuracy will be 96% all the time. This is not realistic and a valid training of the network, because when the model sees new data with an even split, the network will fail. So our solution for this was to match the number of images in both classes to create a 50-50 even balance.
So the method we used was transfer learning on a pre-existing lung cancer detection model. The model architecture for this network is shown on the image to the right. Since this network had a 95% validation accuracy, we wanted to explore if it would have similar success in detecting other lung illnesses. We had run this initial transfer learning model with our dataset via three different methods: our local computers, the free version of Google Colab, and the HPC cluster. However, all these approaches had failed due to out-of-memory or high RAM usage errors, since our image sizes were 1024 by 1024. Since none of the approaches worked, our only option to solve this issue was to downsize our images until the model was able to run without a memory error. This was successful at an image size of 350 by 350 on Google Colab. Using our newly sized dataset on the transfer learning model, we observed that the network does not learn on our dataset, which can be seen on the plot to the right, and yields a validation accuracy at around 50%. After being able to run the model successfully, we had performed several experiments on the hyperparameters as seen on the slide. The initial model had run with a validation accuracy of 50%, so we decided to explore modifying the optimizers, altering the learning rates, changing the batch sizes, running for a higher number of epochs, and even change the entire model architecture with the number of convolution, pooling, dropout, and other layers used. However, as we could see, the validation accuracy didn't change much, as it still hovered at around 50%. In summary, from this experimentation, we noticed that the transfer learning using our dataset did not work as well as lung cancer detection. This led us to conclude that transfer learning does not always work successfully, even if the problems are very closely related. However, we did have possible reasons and justification as to why this transfer learning model didn't work. The main possible reason was that the images we had were downsized a lot from 1024 by 1024 to 350 by 350, which compromised the resolution of the images. As seen in the earlier images, that classifying the scans even at full resolution was a difficult task due to picking up on the slightly minute features of the image. Therefore, downsizing the image was most likely harming our network's performance, as the images would be even blurry and convoluted. Another reason was that the transfer learning model had used a 240 by 240 color image. This could mean that color had played a higher role in detecting lung cancer cells. And it is unknown whether the lung cancer model had smaller images to begin with in order to not perform a downsizing operation. Finally, the transfer learning model could have used a different type of scan than X-rays, as this was not mentioned. Although transfer learning did not work for us, there are several areas for further studies in this field. This could be to perform a full-scale model training on higher compute-powered machines in order to not sacrifice the resolution of the scans. Another area to explore is to use a different dataset in tandem to obtain more samples of scans with emphysema. Finally, this problem could be generalized to apply to various other lung illnesses. While working on this project, we had a few technical challenges. The main challenge we had faced was being able to run the full model on various platforms without resulting in memory errors. Another key challenge was downsizing the model and even creating the model from scratch, as this would still crash the kernel and result in memory errors most of the time. Finally, downloading and parsing through the data locally on our computers was a challenge in itself due to the large file sizes and unstable internet connections. Overall, this problem could have a much broader and global impact. If this model was successful, the network could be implemented in the real world to help doctors with early recognition and accurate diagnosis of the illness. Furthermore, this project could also be a basis for transfer learning for various other types of lung conditions. The following are the references for this project.